Hello, this is Scott, and welcome back for lesson 4 of Seeing the World Anew. Today we're going to learn about broad angles. The last couple lessons have been on contour, which are organic lines, and we need to balance this out with something that is more mechanical. Like everything in life, things are about balance, and with drawing, it's all about balancing the left brain and the right brain. Being open, but being focused. Putting in effort, but letting go. And so this lesson really demonstrates this, as we're going to now focus on something that helps us define and build a structure for our drawing. So we have a map, a road map for where we can place our lines. And that is what our broad angles begin to help us to do. So let's take a look at broad angles and see it in action. Here we have a wonderful Johnny Depp photo from the Pirates of the Caribbean. Hope you enjoy. And I'm going to draw over this so you can see how broad angles work. What we're doing with broad angles is we're looking for points, say the top of the head, the outside of his hand, the bottom of his foot, the bottom of his other leg that we can see, the bottom of his other hand, back to the top. These are points, and we're going to use these points to contain the figure, creating a geometric shape. And we're looking for what the angles are from point to point. So, begin drawing this in, looking for the angle that is created from point to point. So we've created now this abstract looking shape containing the figure. And now begin comparing and noticing these different points to other points. This point, the bottom, if we would go up here, is a little bit to the left. If I would go straight up, you see that the angle is going from left to right, from this point to this point. These are things you want to begin to look for as you're drawing something, to find where things are, to give you a structure from which you can then work from. We see this point is clearly, if we would go straight across, clearly way below this. So we know that we need to have it down. I was almost going to say the same. Okay. And now this is something we're going to practice, actually drawing these containments around a figure and also a still life. But eventually, the more you practice this, it isn't about actually drawing this in, but it's about seeing it. When you look at a figure, when you look at an object, when you're looking at a landscape or anything that you're drawing, you're looking for these points, these broad points of reference where you can compare and find angles to help you put them where they're supposed to be. Alright, here we go. There's another example. We have a beautiful flower here, and you'll notice it's a little complex, and we want to be able to simplify it in our minds so we don't get all flabbertive with the shenanigans here. So, let's look for the broad angles. Moving from broad to simple, I'm first going to look for the entire composition, the angles of the entire composition. So, the bottom of this to the bottom of this to the top of this shape, maybe to this corner, down over here. Just looking for big, broad angles. I might even simplify it more than what I just said. So we start from over here, looking for where this lines up with that, looking from where this goes over here and lines up over there, up top, over here, down. So we have our big, let's keep that. We have our big geometric shape. Again, looking for these points. And a helpful thing, as I showed before, is comparing it to a perpendicular line. So if I go from this point straight up, which would be like this, we see that this angle goes from right to left. And just using that to help you determine where your angles are. Now let's get more specific. I'm going to be tricky and use a different color. Tricky but helpful. And do each of these objects separately with broad angles. So we have our little cup or whatever this thing is, and some cookies. We're going to do this as one shape. That'll work just fine. And this is where we have all kinds of stuff going on here. With our contour, we were really concerned with exploring all of this. But with broad angles, we want to simplify it and just look for where we can find points. I'm even going to go all the way across here, really simplifying it. C line. So we have our big basic shape, and then we have our containing shapes for each of the individual objects, all looking for points for we can then compare. We can begin comparing points on different objects with where they relate to points on other objects. So if we would go parallel across this, we would see this is a little bit higher than where this is. If we would go straight down from this point, we would see it almost lines up with this point. They're almost in the same place. So you begin to see what we use broad angles for. Alright, so now I'm going to show you back to Johnny. There he is. I'm going to show you taking this a step further and what you'll really be doing for your assignment that you're going to submit. Is not drawing over top of this, but looking at the image and then drawing these angles. So I'm going to start up top here, finding these points, and I see his top of his head, and the angle is going from top to bottom in this general direction. Take it right there. So the point, this is the outside of his hand, so I have done this. Then I'm going to look for the next real broad angle, which is going to be from here down to his foot. And remembering, this stops, it goes just left of this top point. So I'm going to come down, getting that angle, but stopping just left of that top point. Then we went down just a little bit to get this other bottom of his leg. That is a little bit to the right of this top point, so that tells me where to stop. So I go down a little bit to the right. Now I'm going to get this angle from his bottom of his leg to his hand. And that's going out, if I would go straight up, it's way out here away from this point. So I know I got to get out somewhere here. So I'm going to go, and now to know where I stop, I can compare it to this point. So if I'm looking over, so I have it way under this, and I have it way over here. So I want to make sure I get that right. Alright. And then I can find this last angle by just connecting. And so that's it. These are your broad angles, and once we step to the next lesson, we'll be able to begin refining this and then incorporating contour lines, and to really begin to have a more accurate drawing. Have fun with this.